Alright, here's my review of the Dye Rotor. First thing I'm going to talk about is the weight. It is the heaviest out of the three newer hoppers, which are the Prophecy, the Pinocchio, and the Rotor. The Rotor weighs 21.5 ounces, which is around 3 ounces heavier than the Prophecy, which is 30 paintballs in weight. But it is the smallest hopper. It has the lowest profile, and it just feels super small in your hands. When it comes to the feed neck, it's a one-piece feed neck designed with the bottom shell. So once that breaks, you're gonna have to get a whole new bottom shell. It's a thinner feed neck than the Prophecy, but I think it's a little bit thicker than the Velocity. It fits rather well in my wrapper. As far as the shells go, it's not a shiny shell. It's more of a matte or a matte, whatever the hell you call it. It's not a shiny shell, so it's not going to show scratches as much as, say, the Prophecy or the Halo Bees. There's a lot of color kits for these out that just came out. They're $30 each. There's the leopard, lime, pink, red, just your standard colors that you can change out. The color kits do come with the windows and as well as the jewels and the lid as well. So you get basically everything that has color on here will be switched out. The speed feeds for these, the Feed Fast RTRs look good. There's a video of them showing them in game and they look pretty good. But I just prefer the lid. The lip is pretty much toleranced correctly to where there's basically no resistance. I'm kind of worried about the wear over time, but so far it hasn't really been a problem. The mouth is kind of small. It fits basically the pod mouth, and that there's no extra room aside from that. But it's not a huge problem. You're not going to lose a ton of balls because of it. It's just something that annoys me because it's just the perfect size for the pod. Disassembly, it's the easiest hopper to disassemble. I mean, I have a video of disassembling it, but it takes literally no time. I can do it in like 2 seconds. There's nothing to this loader. Everything just kind of falls out once you get to a certain point. As far as the features go, there's basically, it's a really simple hopper. There's a tension setting screw, which is right here. Screwing in more gives more tension, which basically raises your speed, but it can be harder on the paint. The anti-jam feature basically moves this around, which is why the anti-jam feature is kind of useless sometimes, depending on your situation of your jam. So far, the jams I've encountered aren't really fixable in-game with the anti-jam trigger. If I can get this back together for you real quick. Alright, I'm just gonna move on. As far as looks go, it's a good looking hopper. I mean, from the side, it's gonna look the best, just because you can see all the color. I personally like my Prophecy better as far as looks go. I mean, it does look like a Halo, but that's basically what it is. To power it on, it's just a simple one-piece button. Ooh, I didn't assemble it right, that's why. Okay, 1 second. Okay. It's just a one push button with the LED behind it. As far as modes go, there aren't any modes. There's just a tension setting, which is pretty much all there really is. As far as how it functions, there are two. This spins one way and this piece spins the other, which is why jams are kind of common. Just because when the balls are falling through the black piece, they can get sucked in between the orange piece. I'm gonna see if I can get a jam on camera. So far, I've only had jams using field paint, my field paint, which is Triumph, and it's not exactly new paint. See, there you go, there's a jam. I'll show you how this jam looks. This is why if you can see that one ball there, it's wedged in between the two impellers, and because of the way it's jammed, the trigger is useless. It basically goes back and forth because the way the anti-jam works, it sits on the gear and the orange piece is not completely winded, so the gear is basically loose, which means I can't fix this without taking off my shell, dumping all my paint out, and just pushing in. See, now it's back to working. And that's about it for the rotor. I mean, it's a good loader, but if you can't always have perfect paint, if it's not always super fresh, some of these are kind of ovalish, maybe a little dimpled. It's just Triumph basic paint. They will get jammed because of the reverse spinning impellers. So that is why you're not going to want to use cheap paint with the rotor. With the Prophecy, the anti-jam feature works better. While it works when the jam is actually within the impeller itself, but not because it's jammed between the two impellers. Otherwise, it works fine. Battery life on this thing, awesome. Dye has it estimated at 50,000 shots, which is 25 cases. So I'd say maybe 40,000 shots outside of the factory. Basically, what happens is when the loader's on, everything's spinning. And there's a little gear in there that once it reaches a certain point, when the stack is full, it hits a micro switch that basically shuts everything off except for the LED. Once the stack is released, it goes back. This is why the anti-jam feature is kind of useless. There is a Gen 2 impeller, the orange piece with the little fin on it, that fixes jams, but it won't fix the jams that I showed you where it gets wedged in between the two. And that about concludes the rotor. The rotor is $150, same as Prophecy. It is the lightest, tightest hopper on the market. It's probably more fan-friendly just because it is from Dye. It's a bigger company, more known company, so it's going to be more popular at the fields. I see a ton of these on G3s and Minis. It's another reason I got turned off from them, because every little kid had them. And Prophecy just holds more paint. I play back to mid, so I'm going to need more to shoot. But it is a nice, tight loader. The profile is super small. Its assembly is super easy. It's awesome on battery life. There's not too much to this loader. It's a really simple loader. And that's it. Thanks for watching.